So yeah, I'm going to dive right into it. As Vince said, I've got some things I want to share with you just to give you a better idea of what Rift is all about. But really, I want you to be able to experience the Rift for yourself. So we'll dive right in. Quick little bit about me. My name is Chris Schultz. I work at Resource, which is a digital marketing agency. We are headquartered actually right in the building right next door. We do everything from brand strategy to design to technical implementation. But where I am at Resource, I lead a small team that we call the Innovation Lab. And the lab is really focused on taking a look at new and emerging technologies and how they are changing the way brands interact with their customers. And quite frankly, how they're elevating the expectations that customers have about the way they interact with brands. So as a part of my job, I spend a lot of time working with new technologies. Now, they're not always as interesting as the Rift, but quite often they're pretty interesting to work with. I find it very intellectually stimulating, very mentally challenging, but no matter how much I tell that to my wife, she's convinced I play video games all day. And I admit it's a little harder to defend myself when taking my work home with me looks something like this. But the Rift is something that I am very excited about as a technology. Some of you who have been to Arena Tech Night before may remember I was here a few months ago talking about Google Glass, which is another product that we've done some work with and launched a Google Glass app. I feel that the Rift is not only significant because it's a fifth the price of Google Glass, but it's also much more earth-changing than Google Glass is, and you'll see why when you get to try it yourself. So no matter how much I try to set up what the Rift is and how it's different from everything you've experienced before as far as interacting with a computer, no matter how much prep I do for someone, the first time they put the Rift on, this is what they say. It just kind of slips out, oh wow, because you really need to experience it for yourself to really get it. And so for that reason, I'm going to do my best to keep this brief so that we can get to the demos. So the Rift was really the brainchild of this guy. This is Palmer Luckey. I figure with a name like Palmer Luckey, you're either destined to be an entrepreneur or a cowboy. And I don't think he's the cowboy type, really. Palmer built his first prototype of the Rift in his parents' garage. And he saw so much potential in this that he decided to start the company Oculus VR. So you'll hear Oculus Rift. Oculus is the company. Oculus probably came to first public attention with the Kickstarter campaign they launched in late summer of 2012. It was wildly successful. They raised $2.5 million for this product. It was 975% of their goal. So it was clearly sort of a product that the world was hungry for. Around the same time, Oculus caught the attention of this guy. This is John Carmack. For those of you who don't know that name, he is kind of a god in game programming circles. He has gained a reputation about being able to push hardware beyond the capabilities that anyone thought it could do. So he single-handedly invented the first-person 3D shooter genre with Wolfenstein 3D. He popularized it with his very popular game Doom. He pioneered a lot of the techniques and capabilities that we now take for granted in multiplayer gaming with Quake. So he is a big, big name, and he was so impressed with the Rift technology that he left the company he started, id Software, to join Oculus as their chief technology officer. Shortly after the Kickstarter campaign and John Carmack joining the group, they made available something they called Developer Kit 1, which is their first publicly available prototype of the Rift. And that's what we have here tonight. So all the Rifts you're going to experience are this Dev Kit 1. There's a little bit about Dev Kit 1 up here. So it does head orientation tracking very accurately with no drift using accelerometer, gyroscope, and magnetometer. It also has a 90-degree field of view, which means part of the image you're seeing is actually in your peripheral vision, which is part of what makes it so effective. The resolution of this prototype is 640 by 800 for each eye, and it has a refresh rate of 60 hertz, which means you can get frame rates of 60 frames a second. So there were 50,000 units of this sold, and it was open to anyone who wanted to purchase one. At CES back in January, Oculus previewed something they call Crystal Cove, which is an updated prototype. This is now available for order on the Oculus website. It isn't shipping quite yet. It'll start shipping in July. If you place an order today, it'll start shipping for you in August. But in just the short time between DevKit 1 and DevKit 2, they've actually made some pretty significant advances. So still has the same sort of head orientation tracking, so it knows which direction you're looking in. But they added something very significant, which is positional tracking of the head as well. So by positional tracking, I mean it actually knows if you move to the left, move to the right, forward, back, up, and down. There's a few reasons this is important. It turns out that for the immersion to really feel real, and actually, to be quite honest, to keep you from getting seasick, your brain expects any movement, not just where you're looking, but where the position of your head shifts to give you immediate feedback, and this helps achieve that. It also has a wider field of view, so a 100-degree field of view, and you'll see why that's important in a moment. And almost 1,000 pixel by 1,000 pixel resolution per eye, which may not seem like that much more than 640 by 800, but it actually translates to 4 times the number of pixels, so it's pretty significant. And a 75 hertz refresh rate, so you can get much higher frame rates now. It's only been available for order for a short time, and the last numbers I heard was it was already above 25,000. Some of you may have first heard of Oculus when it made it into the news because sort of out of the blue, Facebook announced they were buying Oculus for $2 billion. I like seeing it with all the zeros. It looks more impressive to me that way. And this caused a little bit of a stir. I was actually kind of excited for this news, and there were some people like me who were excited. It did cause a little bit of a backlash from the Oculus developer community. I think because people just hear Facebook and they have preconceptions about what this might mean for Oculus. Here's one thing people might have had in mind.
Okay, right this way. Let's get you strapped in. We've been working with Oculus for some time now, well before we acquired them. And we've created a Facebook app that we think really brings the social network into the future of virtual reality.
I've been a blogger and e-miner for years now. When I found out that Facebook had acquired Oculus Rift, I loved the chance to try out just what they had in store.
Welcome to the future of Facebook.
This is amazing.
Let's get you logged in.
How do I?
Okay, now we think that users will find that when the worlds of Facebook and Oculus combine, it makes for a truly immersive experience.
It's like website that's on this browser.
Oh, this is cool. No, you can't. Let's look at the messages. Oh, I almost forgot. Take a look to your right. See that TV? Why don't you try turning it on?
It's Netflix.
That's right. We wanted to make the Facebook experience as realistic as possible. So we added functionality which allows you to leave Netflix on in the background while you endlessly scroll through Facebook.
This is the future.
So I got a kick out of that. But it's actually quite interesting. I was surprised and didn't quite understand why Facebook would be interested in Oculus, but Mark Zuckerberg explained the reason behind this acquisition, and it makes a lot of sense. So the way he describes it is, if you look every 10 to 15 years, there's a major shift in sort of the computing platform that all of us use. So if you think back, we used to use desktops with locally running software. Then we kind of all made the shift to spending most of our time with our computers using the web. Then the shift to smartphones and tablets. And Facebook really sees virtual reality as a very likely candidate for what that next platform will be. And part of why they believe this is a concept that you'll hear described as presence. So this device has a unique capability that no other computer hardware has, and that's the ability to create this sense of presence. So presence is different than immersion. If you think of going to a 3D movie theater on a very large screen, you get a very immersive experience. But no matter how good the 3D effects are, how convincing, you never really forget that you're sitting in a movie theater watching a film. Presence is different. Presence is beyond that. Presence is where the experience is actually doing a good enough job of tricking your senses, almost at the physiological level, that you actually feel like you've been transported to a different place. And hopefully you'll get a little taste of that when you try the Oculus for yourself. Now everybody's threshold for what it takes to achieve that sense of presence turns out is a little bit different. Valve Software has actually been doing a lot of research into, okay, what are the technical requirements really required to achieve this level of presence? Using myself as an example, even with this unit, which is, even compared to DevKit 2, a little bit crude, I feel like I've been able to achieve some experiences that give me a little bit of that sense of presence. You may not quite feel that. Like I said, everybody's sense of presence is different. But Valve has been trying to study what is that minimum bar we need to reach where everybody will sort of feel that sense of presence. And for the interest of time, I won't go through the details here, but they've actually itemized out what the minimum thresholds are in each of these characteristics. Michael Abrash says that as far as timeline goes, he sees a truly convincing VR experience at a consumer price within reach by 2015. Why should we care what Michael Abrash says? Well, he was the lead researcher who did that research for Valve, and he has since left Valve and joined Oculus as their chief scientist. So he clearly believes that Oculus is going to be the first company to sort of reach that level of presence. There's a great talk that I have, if you guys are interested in the link, and you can just go to oculusvr.com to, there's a great talk Mike did that talks in more detail about sort of the technical and physiological requirements for presence. If you're interested in that level of detail, I highly recommend it. So I did want to give you guys a sense of content. You'll see 5 different stations here tonight, each with sort of different content to show you, so you'll get a little taste. But one of the things I love about this space right now is there is so much experimentation going on, and it's in all different directions. Last time I checked, there were over 475 different Oculus experiences out there. And they range all over the board. So obviously gaming is a big focus. So you're seeing older games be retrofitted to support Oculus, like Team Fortress and some of the other games available on the Steam network. Some new games are being developed specifically for Oculus, like the skydiving game. And then there are AAA titles that are targeting multiple platforms and treating Oculus Rift as a first-class citizen that they will support on day one. Another interesting sort of trend I've seen is creating virtual places for you to explore. So you can explore everything from a Batman-like lair to the bridge of the original Starship Enterprise to Jerry Seinfeld's apartment if you feel like hanging out there. And of course, simulation is another obvious fit for something like this. So you've got the usual suspects, racing sims and flight sims. There's a surprising number of very detailed and accurate space simulators on the horizon as well. Then you have some more unusual options like this big rig driving simulator or this surgery simulator. And then there are some simulations that maybe take it just a little bit too far. Like I said, there's a lot of experimentation going on in this space right now. I think even things like the video entertainment we're used to may change or evolve as more of these devices make their way into homes. So there's some very literal interpretations like VR cinema, which lets you watch a movie on a giant 100-foot screen. And it actually is quite convincing. The first feature-length film is being shot for Oculus right now by an Academy Award-nominated director. I'm very anxious to kind of see where that goes. And of course, any sufficiently advanced technology will be used to distribute cat videos. Now, Aaron mentioned the Parrot Drone too, which is brand new news. I just added this slide an hour before I came over here. I wanted to show you a little bit about what the VR experience is with this drone, just so you get a taste. So there's a lot more footage on the Parrot website. I definitely recommend checking it out. It's pretty interesting stuff. If you are sold enough on the Rift concept and want to go out and buy your dev kit tomorrow, there are two sites that I find pretty useful in staying on top of the games and demos that are available. One is Oculus VR's own website. They have a section called Share, and that they do a good job of curating content on. And then the most extensive list of efforts in this space I've found is riftenabled.com, which rates every demo by genre, gives it a star rating, so it's a very good place to kind of see what's new. I want to talk just a little bit about content creation for the Rift. I imagine there are probably some developers and designers in the audience who might be interested in playing in this space. And I would tell you that it's actually quite approachable to start creating content for this. There are two tools in particular that I want to make sure to mention. One is a game engine called Unity. This is what I've been using to build my demos in and have the most experience with. It's available in a free version, but at least with this version of the dev kit, you do need to upgrade to the pro version of Unity in order to use it. The pro version is $75 a month or $1,500 outright for a perpetual license. There is a free trial, though, if you want to just get your feet wet. And the way Rift is supported in Unity is through an add-on that Oculus actually makes available for download from their site. The other tool I'd recommend, and I'm actually very excited about this one. This is a brand new development. So Unreal Engine 4 was just released in, I think, March. And really, they've done something very aggressive with their pricing. Stepping back, Unreal Engine 4 already has this reputation as being a super robust and really visually stunning game engine, which is what you would want for the Rift. But when they announced Unreal Engine 4, they announced aggressive pricing that I think is a shot across the bow of Unity. So Unreal Engine 4 is just $20 a month plus a 5% revenue share if you end up releasing game content. And also, very interesting, is they have native Rift support built right into the engine. I have a small asterisk there because if you download Unreal Engine today, you'll get the Rift support with the Windows version, but not the Mac version. They already have the Mac support completed. It'll be pushed out with the next release. So, time for demos, almost. So, you guys have seen the maps of where the demos are. I'll be doing one in here. You'll also see demos in the rooms on that side of the floor. Feel free to make your way to as many demos as you want and ask the presenters or the demo folks questions. Some of the demos you'll see were created by the folks manning those stations themselves. Some of them are just more commercial off-the-shelf type things. But there's that. Finally, I will open it up for a very brief Q&A, but I also want to put my email address up here. If you guys are interested in these slides, go ahead and send me an email, and I'll make sure you get a copy of them. So, were there any quick questions I can answer for anyone?
Bring the demo folks up here.
Oh, yes. Demo folks, would you please stand or raise your hands so people can kind of get an idea of who's giving demos? Yeah. So these guys are your go-to folks for questions after this. So.
Okay, totally kind of off the radar. Is anyone doing anything about like haptic feedback for these things, so you actually have the sensation of touching? So
the question is anybody doing haptic feedback to go with this? I think it's really interesting because you are seeing sort of this hardware ecosystem developing around this. There are alternate controllers. One thing that's you'll see a lot of is, guys help me with this, the Hydra, Razer Hydra, which is sort of this wand-based system that actually lets you control your two hands in a very natural way. You'll also see what's the round treadmill thing? Yes, the Omni, which is this sort of half-dome treadmill where you actually move by moving your feet. It looks really ridiculous, but it's supposed to be very convincing. I don't know specifically with haptic feedback that I've seen anything. I don't know if any of the other guys who've played have seen any specific haptic stuff, but yeah. But I think we'll see a lot of additional hardware exploration kind of hung off of this. There's another question, yes? Oh, good. I forgot to, I may have omitted the price. They're really inexpensive, $350 for a dev kit. So my hope is that the price stays within that range when it comes out to consumers. I don't see why it wouldn't. And Facebook has actually publicly said they don't plan to make money off the hardware. So I'm kind of holding out hope that maybe they even subsidize it a little bit to encourage adoption. But yeah, for me, $350 it seems very reasonable for this. Yes, sir.
What's the standard input or output for this? Is it VGA?
It's HDMI is what it comes with a bunch of adapters.
Does it work with the wireless HDMI?
I don't know. I wouldn't recommend it because I didn't go through it on the slide, but the amount of latency can have a severe impact on how convincing the experience is, and you'd get some latency with the wireless HDMI. So there's a question in the back.
Yeah, Chris, what do you think about this as a productivity tool? So imagine that you could connect 10 monitors together per se, and use that as a web developer.
I think there's some really interesting stuff there. One thing you'll notice with
anything like that out there right now?
there are people who have built their own alternate operating system interfaces that are Rift enabled. So you will see stuff like that out there already, yeah. So there's a lot of exploration. One thing I want to caution with and sort of temper expectations a little bit with, so I mentioned that the resolution of this is lower than sort of what Valve has determined is needed for a convincing experience. The way that you'll experience it, when you first put it on, first you'll go, oh wow, and then you'll go, looks a little blurry. And then you'll go, oh, it looks like I'm looking through a screen door, because you can actually see the screen's this close to your face, so you can actually see the areas between the pixels. That all gets much better with the new dev kit that's out, but in my experience, the screen door effect and the blurriness, actually it's fairly easy to ignore them after just a few minutes. You get used to it pretty quickly. So. Okay, so I think that I promised Vince I'd keep the questions short. So we really want you guys to try this. So we'll have the facilitators go off to their rooms now, and feel free to wander and experience the Rift. And thank you guys very much.
There's demos all